I've always been fascinated with the idea of killing people. Not that I have anything against people in general, but I figure if you kill so many people, you're going to kill some bad-minded people, some people that aren't contributing anything to society. And there's so many billions of people in the world, and each one of them think they're special, but they're not. And who's really going to miss? Even if we killed 100 people, who's really going to miss? I mean, that's only going to affect so many other people. But it wasn't an angry thing. It was more like going to be a hobby. We figured it up, and if we had managed to kill some people at another location, we would have fit like 5 different categories of murderers. We would have been like murder superstars or something.
Which categories were you gonna fit?
Family side, pseudo commando, spree killer, and
So, I guess if you could get your message out there still, what would your message be?
If you know someone who isn't contributing to society, kill them. There's too many people in the world as it is. Every day there's more people in the world than there has ever been before, and they don't matter. If they're not doing good, kill them. Look at the position we were in. It was practically prison circumstances, and we were still able to do this, and we had so much more planned. Anyone can do it. Yeah.
So this is some bullshit. Again, Robert is desperate to affirm that he is a special boy, that he isn't like other serial killers, even though he absolutely is. It seems like he wants to be the prettiest, most special girl at the ball, so he chooses the quickest and most despicable way to gain any sort of attention. And even then, he failed. He's a failure in every single respect. Welcome back to another episode of Dreading, or if this is your first time here, welcome. Today we're going to be supplementing our coverage of the Beaver family massacre by going over the recently released interrogation footage of Robert Beaver. For newer subscribers and those who have not seen our initial coverage, a link will be left in the description box down below to our previous video going over the case details. That video also went over Michael Beaver's public confession, where the 16-year-old admitted that the reason they had killed their family was so that they'd be famous enough to warrant a Wikipedia page. But for those who do not want to watch an hour-long video, we'll do our best to go over the relevant case details here. We were able to obtain this footage from the Fox 23 News Tulsa channel. A link will be left in the description box down below should you want to watch the confession sans our commentary. As always, if there is a video you would like to see on the channel or a case you want to bring more attention to, you can let me know by emailing me at dreading.official@gmail.com. We're still consistently going through our email and sorting through your suggestions, and adding them to our list. But be aware, this is strictly a 2-person operation, meaning that it will take us some time to get to your topic, but we promise we are trying. So with all of that said, let us begin. The Beaver family consisted of parents David and April and their 7 children: Robert, Michael, Crystal, Daniel, Christopher, Victoria, and Autumn. The family itself was extremely isolated, with the children being homeschooled by April and rarely allowed to interact with anyone outside the family unit. Some of the neighbors would go on to state that, while they knew of the children, they didn't formally learn their names until after the murders, when the medical examiner released them. From all accounts, the children lived under strict, isolating conditions that left them disconnected from the outside world. One of the various sources of information about the family exists on Reddit, where April would post in various forums about frugality and her other interests. She discussed how she had gotten married at just 15 years old to an older man, David, how they homeschooled their 7 children, and how she felt like having her 7 children was the greatest honor of her life. April and David hadn't always desired to homeschool their children, and had placed their eldest son Robert in preschool when he came of age. However, he'd been sexually assaulted by one of the staff. This obviously horrified the parents, who had previously trusted that their son was in good hands. They seemingly felt like the molestation had been their fault for trusting another adult to look after their child. They determined that they would not allow anyone to have the opportunity to harm one of their children ever again. April also regularly posted about sending others in forums small gifts in order to build community. From all accounts, she appeared like a gracious and overall pleasant person, someone who believed that she was doing right by her family and sought to raise them the only way she knew how. But while April was noted as being a loving and generally kind individual, David was not described as such. Those who interacted with the father at work found him to be incredibly reclusive and unwilling to engage with them outside of work discussions. If they tried to talk to him about sports or the weather, he would just ignore them, which his direct supervisors enjoyed. As a father, he was described as a harsh disciplinarian and could be extremely hard on the children, specifically when it involved his eldest son. He felt that it was his job to lead the family, and it would seem that his early parenting ideas involved corporal punishment. Unfortunately, this is not entirely uncommon, especially in homeschool environments. Though this lessened with each subsequent child, Crystal Beavers would go on to state that her parents often spoke about how David had been too hard on his eldest son growing up, and how he regretted his actions. She would also state that her father could be considered emotionally abusive, but had never been physically abusive with any of the children outside of Robert. Though April and David felt that the world at large was a dangerous place for the children to be, and kept them isolated from other people, they were seemingly unaware of the dangers that lurked online for children and teens. The kids were given unfettered access to the internet, and Robert and Michael Beaver spent much of their adolescence online. Robert would go on to make his own YouTube channel, Cult Empire Official, on January 11th, 2013. And would post 4 videos onto the channel.
Alright, the new vlog. I got my video uploading for my first Happy Wheels playthrough. Sadly, something happened, and at the last the game crashed, and so it might got a little slow. I have to cut out certain parts of it. There was just silence, hoping it would come back. It didn't, though. So I'm going to upload a part 2 sometime soon, hopefully with better video quality. Second of all, new hairstyle, check it. It's called a faux hawk, where I don't have to shave the rest of my head, but I still get mohawk. I hope that it still looks like a faux hawk.
Like most teens, he became obsessed with the idea of being famous and having people all over the world know their names. But more than that, Robert wanted to feel powerful. These boys had grown up extremely isolated and controlled by their parents. They felt like they had little to no agency over their own lives, and so their desire to act autonomously morphed into something deeper. They desired to control not just their own lives, but over the lives of everyone around them. This isn't exactly an abnormal want for the average person. In fact, most teens and children desire some form of fame when they're younger, whether that be through singing, acting, or more recently, some kind of social media following. Many minors view these professions as being their dream jobs. Because the harsh realities of fame are often not publicly discussed in settings where children are present, it's viewed as being nothing short of jetting around the world and having fun. Initially, Robert wanted to be a gaming YouTuber. He posted a total of 4 times on the Cult Empire official account, and had a separate channel, Cult Empire Classic, where he posted on gaming videos, trying to emulate other popular creators like Toby Turner, PewDiePie, and Markiplier. But at the time, the online landscape was flooded with teens and young adults like Robert who wanted to make their living playing video games. In order to stand out in terms of content, especially in the gaming genre, he would either need to have a quality setup, the ability to play newer titles, and a non-stop upload schedule that would ensure that his videos would be shown in people's feeds. And even then, he wouldn't be guaranteed any sort of success, as YouTube's algorithm is notoriously tricky. He could have amazing videos with perfect gameplay footage and great thumbnails and attention-grabbing titles, and still could be unsuccessful in his field. So seemingly after failing to gain any sort of positive attention, he decided that if he couldn't be famous, he would be infamous. According to both Robert's and Michael's confessions, they decided that they would become the most prolific serial killer mass murderers in the world, and killing their family was the first step in their plan. According to Crystal Beaver, Robert was genuinely interested in serial killers, believing that most murderers are actually intellectuals who are more developed than those around them. Oh, great. He would argue that they have the ability to do, quote, what needs to be done, unquote, in society, whereas others are too soft to enact real change. This, of course, is false, and in our professional opinion is stupid. In our coverage of serial killers, mass murderers, rapists, and the like, you know what, let's add arsonists to it as well. We found that most criminals are pretty much morons. Someone like the Unabomber is very, very rare, and most of these people should be laughed out of the room whenever they enter. But unfortunately, Robert revered them, and given that Michael often copied his older brother, he did the same thing. For 3 years, the brothers talked about their fantasies, and how they would eventually kill every member of their family before dismembering their bodies and placing them in storage bins and hiding them in the attic. Before we go further into what the boys had planned, it's important to us to point out how distinctly idiotic and almost childlike their fantasies were. First, They would have to get away with killing their entire family, which would be incredibly hard. Being able to isolate and control 6 separate individuals is hard enough on its own, and each member would be fighting to save themselves and the rest of the family. People largely underestimate how much energy it would take to kill one individual with a knife, which Robert and Michael decided to use in the murders. These were incredibly small, weak teenage boys who had not done any physical training in their entire lives. The amount of strength and endurance it would take to repeatedly stab someone, get through bone and fat, is immense and extremely physically exhausting. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to stab one person, let alone 6, and to do it without alerting anyone else in the family is borderline impossible. Robert would also confess that he planned on making videos with his family's bodies, one to send to the police and one to post online publicly. Though they wanted to go on a nationwide killing spree after their family's demise, the brothers also craved notoriety. They wanted the same amount of attention other killers like BTK and Zodiac garnered for communicating with the police, and thought that by posting videos online, they would immediately go viral. Again, this shows how stunted and childlike their fantasies are, because to be clear, while posting a video of their crimes would be disturbing and garner some attention, it would also immediately lead to their arrest. The police would be able to track their location easily, and both brothers are fairly odd-looking individuals, meaning that if they were to go out in public at all, they would be apprehended. But in their fantasy, they'd be able to live stream their crimes without issue, and avoid any sort of justice and just move about the world without notice. With their families out of the way, they would then focus on going on other killing sprees. The boys were obsessed with mass casualty events, like Columbine and the Aurora theater shooting, but they felt as if they would be able to ultimately outwit the police where the other perpetrators had been caught, leaving the general public terrified. Robert would state that they had loose plans to steal the family car and go on a nationwide road trip, driving around the state and killing between 5 to 10 random people for no reason. They would pick a location, grab their guns, and shoot a select group of people, and then blow up the entire establishment with Molotov cocktails. Robert believed that the random nature of the murders would make it virtually impossible for police to find them, and that they would be able to rack up the biggest body count in the US. Robert also claimed that he wanted this spree to be, quote, the next big thing, meaning that his goal was to encourage other criminals to follow his lead. And on the night of July 22, 2015, after 3 years of fantasizing, the plan moved from a theory to action. The attack began shortly before midnight on July 22, 2015, where 13-year-old Crystal Beaver was asked by her mom to get Robert and Daniel to do the dishes. At the time, they were the only 4 people awake in the home. April then entered the boys' room, where she saw the boys wearing body armor and sorting weapons on their beds. She told the boys that their mom said to do the dishes, at which point Michael turned to Robert and asked if they should, quote, just do it now, unquote. Robert agreed, and Michael asked if his sister wanted to see something cool on their computer. While looking at the computer, Robert went up behind her and attempted to slit her throat. They wanted to kill her quietly, so as to not alert the other family members to their crimes, but they weren't able to cut her vocal cords. She fought her brothers and screamed for help, waking the entire family. She was able to get away from the boys briefly and ran outside. April would jump into action, wanting to protect her family from whatever the threat was. She confronted both boys, who attacked her together. Despite being ambushed, she attempted to fight them off for a short period of time, but eventually the brothers overpowered her. She was stabbed more than 48 times in the head, neck, torso, and arms. The autopsy would showcase that April had been stabbed twice the amount of every other family member, meaning that she was likely the subject of the boys' rage. It's unknown when David was attacked, but at some point, he was woken up by the sounds of his wife and children being harmed. He rushed into action, and since he was larger and stronger than the boys, was able to fight them off for some time. Michael later admitted that their father's resistance disrupted their timing, and that he'd been a difficult kill. David had been stabbed at least 28 times in the face, neck, arms, and torso. While the parents were being attacked, the younger children were awakened by the noise. 7-year-old Christopher and 5-year-old Victoria attempted to flee and lock themselves in a bathroom, but the brothers prepared for this. Michael pretended that he was just as scared as they were, and begged his siblings to unlock the door and let him in. Christopher, age 7, and Victoria, aged 5, unlocked the door, believing that they were saving their brother's life, only to be stabbed over 20 times by their siblings. The boys later admitted that they felt they had to eliminate witnesses, and believed leaving any siblings alive would jeopardize their plan for a future mass attack. In the midst of the assault, Daniel, age 12, managed to lock himself in his father's office and called 911. Some reports state that he'd been attacked shortly after Crystal, and had already been stabbed, but either way, was able to contact the authorities.
Air 911. Broken Arrow 911. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, where are you at?
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma 7411.
What address?
709 Magnolia Court.
Okay. Are you the only one there?
No, my brother's attacking my family.
Your dad is attacking your family?
No, my brother. He has an idea stealing me. Oh, millions of people out.
Okay, who's attacking your family?
What?
Who's attacking your family?
Yes.
Who is it? Do they have...
I'll call them.
Are you there?
Hello?
Hi, what's going on there? What's going on there? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Once again, his brothers used their ruse, pretending that they were hiding from the murderous sibling. Daniel would open the office door to let his brother hide with him, only to be brutally murdered. Daniel ultimately did not survive, but his quick action was the reason officers arrived as quickly as they did. 2-year-old Autumn was left untouched, because the brothers became preoccupied with the struggle against their parents and older siblings. She was in the other room, and the boys later stated that they had not reached her when the police began arriving on the street. Their plan was to decapitate the child, which they wanted to film and post publicly. After killing Daniel and realizing the police were on their way, both brothers panicked. Their plan was to go about their lives as if nothing had happened, to live in the home with the bodies, and terrorize the public with their mass killing sprees. But they failed before they really began. By the time the officers knocked on the door minutes later, the house had fallen silent. Robert and Michael fled out the back, intending to escape into the woods behind their yard and begin the next phase of their plan. But the two were easily caught by police less than 20 minutes after their massacre had begun. As the boys were being arrested, officers entered the home and found 13-year-old Crystal still alive and calling for help. And because of the actions of Daniel Beaver, she was able to survive the attack. Her survival allowed for an alternative narrative from her brothers to be made public, which is paramount in these situations. The brothers would be arrested and brought in for questioning the next night. A link will be left to our original video, where we go over Michael's interrogation, alongside an upload of the interview sans any commentary. However, Robert's interrogation would be kept private until now. The police already know that the brothers murdered their family, so this interrogation is going to be mostly focused on why.
Yes, sir. Okay. Go ahead and have a, I know where that water bottle is. Would you like a glass of water? Or a cup of water? Bottle of water?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you want anything to eat?
Robert's demeanor is notable, as he seems entirely laid back and comfortable, despite his crimes. The 18-year-old appears smug as he rejects an offer for food, even though it will be his last chance to have any food outside of prison for the rest of his life. His life as he knows it is over. Robert and Michael believed that they were going to be famous mass murderers, that their names would be placed alongside other killers like Ted Bundy and Richard Ramirez, and the world would quake in fear of what they have done. That when videos like this one are made, we would emphasize how depraved they were, striking fear into the hearts of everyone listening. However, they failed at the first hurdle, but their plans were ultimately thwarted within 20 minutes, and they have achieved nothing. These boys, unfortunately, are morons, who were so misguided that their plans were destined to blow up in their faces. These are not strong, capable individuals who you or anyone else should be afraid of. With that in mind, Robert's demeanor seems out of place. So why does he appear so proud of his abject failure? It's likely because he doesn't realize that this will be his legacy, that his actions, while terrible, do not give him any power. Instead, they make him seem small and weak. Robert does see the camera, and he is well aware that his words will inevitably be made public. He wants to present himself like a villain that he's seen in some cartoon, like Dick Dastardly or something. But this is a teenager who is highly sheltered and has almost no idea how to properly interact with other people. The result is that a lot of his mannerisms, which we will point out, are from children's cartoons like Ben 10. He's trying to seem cool here, and will continue to try and seem that way throughout the interrogation. But it's important for us to try and clarify that this is objectively not cool and particularly strange. He is a teenager who wants to be famous, who didn't have the determination to put effort into any craft, including YouTube, and so he defaulted to hurting everybody around him. It hasn't occurred to him that this is about the most pathetic thing that he can possibly do. He spent years putting other killers on pedestals, and likely feels that since he has killed some of his family members, he has at least achieved something. In other words, he is being blinded by his own ego. While he would agree that his plan didn't go the way he initially thought it would, he feels as if he did a good enough job, and that people will look at him in this interview and will either feel abject fear or inspiration.
Say I can get you some snacks or something.
Yeah, I
I've got one for you. I'll go grab some earlier.
Paperwork. Never ends. Okay, so we got a couple recorders going just in case one fails. So we got extra one, and we got the video camera. My name's Eric. I'm a detective here with Broken Arrow Police.
Nice to meet you.
And good to meet you. It's Robert, right?
Yes.
Okay, Robert.
You prefer Robert or Rob
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, just Robert.
Just Robert?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is Detective Brianna Russell. She works with me.
We're going to skip ahead a bit, as they mostly go over paperwork in the first few minutes. But before we do that, Robert continues to try and seem nonplussed about the fact that he is currently in an interrogation room after murdering his family. He looks around the room, mostly at the ceiling, before looking directly into the camera and smirking. He is, of course, attempting to appear casual about everything that has happened thus far, because he wants people to watch this interrogation and believe that he is a psychopathic serial killer that is too dangerous to be let out into public.
So you got a high school diploma. You're not present. You said no. Are you presently on any drugs or medication? Under the influence of alcohol, you said no. And you speak and understand English, you said yes. Seems you're truthful there. The rights 1 through 5 that you read and that I read aloud, you understand those, right? So if you want an attorney, you just got to tell me, okay? What we're going to do is we just want to sit here and talk about what happened. I'll ask some questions. You can ask me questions. She'll ask some questions. If at any time you're uncomfortable or you decide you don't like us, just tell me and we'll stop. I won't get mad. Nothing crazy is going to happen. Or if you have a question and you're like, man, that doesn't make sense, I don't understand, let me know. Or if you think you need an attorney to help you make a decision, just let me know. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Both interrogators are in an odd position here, because usually they're talking to individuals who are not looking for an audience with the police, people who are trying to obfuscate their actions and maintain their innocence. They have to attempt to get on their subject's good side without seeming inauthentic, while also applying pressure onto them so they either confess or provide them with more information. It's a delicate tightrope, one that most fall off of, but that isn't the case here. Robert wants attention more than anything. The 18-year-old wants to be told that he matters, that he is terrifying and scary, and so there was no chance that he would say no to their interrogation or ask to speak to a lawyer. He's going to try and use this opportunity, which he knows will eventually be made public, to try and showcase his sick and twisted dark mind in the way that most self-important teenagers do, meaning that all the interrogators have to do is sit back and guide him through exactly what happened the night before. It doesn't necessarily matter if they react or appear judgmental towards Robert in his actions, because that is the kind of response he is actively looking for.
Okay, cool. So like I said, we wanted to kind of talk about what happened last night. Can you kind of run me through what happened?
Okay, just last night?
Well, okay, let's do this. Let's go back to the beginning, because we know some crazy stuff happened last night, and I've heard and talked with your brother, and I know that you guys kind of talked about it before and had some planning. So start there, where you came up with the idea and what you were thinking and what happened.
Okay, well, it actually was when I was about 13, and I had always, my parents always beat me until I wished I was dead, but then I had this idea. What if they were dead instead?
Right off the bat, it's clear that Robert has rehearsed this point in his head multiple times over. It's dramatic, it's dynamic, it's something you'd expect to hear in a show. That said, he takes care to frame himself as the initial victim of his parents' cruelty. They beat him until he wished he was dead, so his murderous rage towards them is justified. And to be clear, that could very well be true. David had discussed being too hard on Robert in his early life, as confirmed by Crystal. And it's extremely common for abusive parents to isolate their children from the rest of the world in order to keep the abuse from being reported. But that doesn't validate the murders.
And so I just kept that thought in my head for some years, and then I finally convinced my parents to let me leave the house and walk down to my Tech and get a job. So I started saving up money. Got a few $1,000s because I didn't have any bills, bought some leisure stuff, but I also started buying body armor. And I was buying body armor on the off chance that I would ever get to use it, like if I could ever get out of there. But after so many months, I quit my Tech and I was like, okay, I figure I have about enough money now to make this happen.
Interestingly enough, since Robert was over 18 years old, had graduated from his homeschool courses, and had a job, he could have easily improved his circumstances by simply leaving the home. He could have removed himself from the environment and gotten a small apartment and begun his life in a productive way. Would it have been easy? Absolutely not. He had basically no real-world experience, no credit, and was essentially starting at square one. But he could have risen to that challenge, especially if he was as smart as he claims to be. The sad reality of the world is that it owes you nothing. People can hurt and traumatize you, and while they may go to prison or face some kind of punishment, if you want to be a functioning member of society, it's up to you to deal with your trauma. Of course, it's not fair and it's not right, but that's ultimately how things work. And trauma doesn't give you the right to hurt other people or excuse your actions. It isn't pleasant, but unless you want to hurt the people around you that you hold dear, it's up to you to get help. But Robert simply didn't want to do that. He felt as if the abuse he endured in his childhood gave him the right to hurt everyone else, including his 2-year-old baby sister, that it meant he could kill random strangers in public and, in his words, coal the weak. So he quit his job after saving a few $1,000s and began to stockpile weapons to do just that.
So, my brother had already been asking about the body armor. He had kind of a similar interest in it. I was like, sure, I can buy you some too.
He had a similar interest in the body armor?
He has similar interest in the body armor. I found out from late night conversations with him that he also had an interest in murder. I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I'll buy you your armor rig. And, the packages kept coming. I kept having body armor showing up, and my parents were like, why are you stockpiling body armor? I never told them. When I only had my helmet and my plate carrier, though, I came into my dad's office one day, and I just looked at him and I said, this is my life preservation rig. And I could tell he was really angry because, he didn't want me buying stuff like that. He was kind of like glaring at me.
How long ago was that? When was that?
A few months ago.
Okay.
Robert frames buying the body armor as being an act of rebellion, something he did to get one over on his parents. They objected to his purchases, but they were ultimately unable to stop him, even though he lived in their home and, by his own admission, were extremely controlling. But then goes on to state that on one occasion he put on the armor, went into his father's office and told him, quote, "This is his life preservation," unquote. According to Robert, that made his father furious, then describes how his father glared at him from behind the desk. He begins to flex his hand dramatically like Dr. Claw, while talking about how angry his father was seeing him in the armor, as if his memory is making him mad in the moment but is cut off by the officer asking a question. But what he was about to say might have been interesting. If you've ever interacted with a child or a young teen, you're likely aware that they make a show of their emotions. It's not enough that they say they are angry or upset. They have to be shaking with rage. They want their emotions to be taken seriously. So they escalate their actions, or in this case, mimic what they've seen in media. This is something that most children grow out of, especially when they realize that behaving as if they're a Batman villain is somewhat embarrassing. But because Robert has never really interacted with anyone outside of his family, he believes that acting like the Joker will genuinely strike fear into the hearts of the public. It's also notable that he claims his father reacted angrily, then goes on to act out his father glaring at him from behind the desk. Because he was cut off, we don't know if he did something else towards the teenager that displayed his anger. But for a second, put yourself in David's shoes. You're in your office, working, and suddenly your teenage son enters decked out in full body armor. He then proceeds to tell you that the armor is his life preservation. Would you not also just stare at him like he's crazy? Because that's just generally a weird thing to do.
So when did you start buying body armor?
You know, I bought the plate carrier, I think it was either really early this year or sometime last year.
Okay.
And like I had to agree to some kind of little waiver that apparently nobody pays attention to that said, yes, I'm over the age of 21. It's like, well, you actually only have to be 18 to buy body armor, but for some reason it said, yes, I am over the age of 21. And so I was worried for a while. I didn't buy anything else because I wasn't sure if I was even going to get this plate carrier. And I was like, well, I have to do this without body armor. Anybody could lay me out. So, but then he arrived and I started getting more bold about it. I bought myself a helmet from this veteran.
Did you meet him online or something, or how did you...
I didn't actually know him, but I could tell this guy wasn't like a seller who was reselling old helmets he found. This was like the only one he had in stock.
Okay.
Same with my brothers. These were
Is that on eBay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert continues his habit of attempting to appear like a cartoon villain, this time by fussing with his hand in a very odd way. This action itself is intriguing because it reminds me of Bugs Bunny. It doesn't appear to be a nervous tic or a sign of stress like we're used to seeing in interrogations. When my brother and I looked into this, we ended up on the TV Tropes website, on the page Primp of Contempt. According to the page, the Primp of Contempt is described as the visual expression of disinterest in current events, or disdain through the checking up of one's appearance, whether intentional or unintentional on the character's part. It's generally considered a display of arrogance towards the villain's own actions and powers, or of indifference towards the hero's efforts. Again, this isn't something that you see in real life, especially not in a sociopathic mass murderer. This is strictly seen in movies and television shows in order to visually display a character's feelings towards a situation. It's a visual shorthand, but because Robert hasn't been around anyone besides his own family and only really learned how to interact with the world through media, he doesn't understand that. So, Bugs Bunny is what we get.
Yeah, but these were personal sellers, and I thought it was really nice that they would sell me these helmets. And his ended up being too big because when the Chinese faceplates got here, they wouldn't fit under his helmet. And it was like sticking out, and he was like, I can't see out of this thing. So I was like, okay, after we kill him, I'll take a saw and I'll cut the corners off so it fits in there. And he's like, okay, fine. So that's why we weren't wearing the masks when we were caught, because I never had time to doctor them.
Okay.
But otherwise, after that, I got myself a balaclava. You know, I didn't want to get helmet hair.
Yeah.
I got myself some Kevlar sleeves, which I did use last night. It actually saved me because they kept trying to bite my arms.
Really?
And those sleeves stopped them. It was, they were like trying to take a chunk out of my flesh, but those sleeves stopped them.
Dang. Did you still have those on when you got caught?
No, they were so soaked with blood, I just stripped them off and threw them on the floor.
Oh, so they're in the house somewhere?
Yeah, they're in the house, near my closet with the rest of my rig. But, I got myself some Kevlar gloves with the hard knuckles, injected knuckles. I was only using one last night, one to go over their heads so they couldn't bite me.
Okay.
And then this was my knife hand, and it was bare.
Okay. What kind of knives did you have?
Like in 2013, I bought myself I want to say it was 11-inch, an 11-inch hunting knife from Survivor Knives.
Okay.
And then about a few weeks ago, I ordered a 15-inch hunting knife.
Okay.
And I used those. I also had a pear knife. It was a little tiny surgical blade.
Okay.
That's what I started out using. I got that as a sample at like Razors or something so many years ago.
Okay.
I don't know why I held on to it, but it broke. I tried to use it.
Okay.
But that was about all I was using.
So you got the kind of the body armor, the helmets, the mask, then you had the knives, and during all that time you kind of talking with your brother about this stuff too?
Yeah, we were talking about when to do it. Originally we were thinking September, got bumped back to August. Finally we were like, nope, let's do it this week, let's do it on Thursday.
And why did you decide on Thursday?
Because I was trying to pack everything in. See, the last thing I ordered were some leg armor.
Okay.
From a riot gear set. We got those. So now we have full rigs. And I was like, okay, what else we need? We need guns.
Okay.
So I went on the official Mossberg website. I found a real nice Mossberg 590A one.
Okay.
With the stock. And I ordered that. It was only about $529.
And you paid, do you have like a debit card or credit card or something?
Yeah, I was using my debit card. I paid cash for everything. I stopped working at Micatech after I got so many thousands of dollars, so I had like a budget for this. It's in my book.
Your book?
Yeah, I have a little book in a lockbox underneath my bed.
Okay.
It talks more about it.
Just that lockbox, how do you unlock it?
It's already unlocked.
Okay.
It was just three dial combinations on each side, but it's already unlocked.
Despite the fact that Robert thought the brothers would be able to evade capture for a long while, it was always his plan to the police to publicize who he was. He wanted to incite panic in the general population, but more than that, he wanted his writings to eventually become public as well, and inspire other murderers, hence writing the plans down and putting them in an open lockbox.
Okay. I was just making the last entry before we did it.
Oh, okay. So you ordered the shotgun. How was that going to get here? Where was it going?
Well, I already did my research. Funny thing was, we were originally planning to do this with knives, but then I found out you can order guns online, and that was just mind-blowing because my parents hate guns.
Yeah.
They were kind of a weird mix between some kind of liberal hippie and conservative nut, because they were racist as all hell and homophobic, and they hated cops, and
Man.
I just hated everything about them. And for another thing, like my dad always told me, I gave you life. I'm your God.
Wow. Did they go to church or anything anywhere?
Never went to church. I don't know where they got all their ideas.
Huh. So, did your research and found out you could buy guns, and you ordered this shotgun. How did that work out?
It worked out fine. It took like 2 minutes. And it said, okay, your shotgun's on its way. It went to Broken Arrow Gun Shop. It was the first one to arrive, and I got a call from Pat down there. He was like, your order's ready to pick up. Of course, I'm not allowed to leave the house, so I was like, okay, well, I have like 2 more guns on the way, so if I could just come down and pick them all up at once, he'd be like, sure. So then I went back on it, and I ordered 2 automatic Glock 41s, one for me, one for my brother.
Okay.
And those took a little longer to ship, but finally I got the call saying, okay, all your packages are ready to pick up. So I was like, how am I gonna get this? So I decided, okay, I'll pick them up after we kill them.
What about ammunition and bullets?
Yes, I was just getting to that.
Okay.
It was like 3 days prior, and I was like, how am I gonna get those guns? So I was like, okay, we'll pick them up after we kill them. And I was like, now all we need is ammunition. I found this website, bulkammo.com. I think it was .com. They do like 2-day shipping on thousands of rounds of ammunition. So I bought 2,000 rounds of 45 caliber ACP total metal jacket ammo for the Glocks. 1,000 rounds for me, 1,000 rounds for my brother. And I bought some 250 rounds of 00 buckshot for the Mossberg. And they're gonna arrive sometime today. They're coming to FedEx. Yeah, they're coming to the house.
Wow.
It's gonna be a shock for that FedEx guy.
Yeah, that's a lot of bullets.
Oh, and Pat, he's gonna flip. They almost sold guns to him.
God. How did you know what kind of ammo to pick and stuff? Did you just research that too?
Because my parents hated guns so much, that kind of made me a gun enthusiast.
Oh, okay.
I've always liked guns.
Okay. I like guns too, they're pretty cool. I mean, we get to shoot a lot. What,
I wanted to join the Marines for a while, but my parents were like, you want to throw your life away?
Robert is an interesting individual because even though he defines himself by being different from his parents and loving everything they hated, like guns, he didn't rebel in a productive way. He apparently stated wanting to join the Marines once he became an adult, but then didn't pursue that course of action because his parents allegedly stated he would be throwing his life away. Why would he have been discouraged by that, given the fact that he was attempting to move away from their control? Why wouldn't he continue to pursue that career path, seeing as it gave him some kind of stability? Instead, he chose to stay at home, stockpile weapons, and throw his life away in the most literal fashion. It should also go without saying that we have found no evidence that his parents were racist or hated cops or considered themselves gods. That's not to say they weren't those things, but we don't feel like we can trust Robert, given the fact that he felt justified in attempting to kill a 2-year-old because she was related to him.
They left the house. Unless Mom went to the store to buy more groceries. She'd buy like a week's worth of groceries at a time. And then, my dad only left the house once or twice a week, and my mom never left the house. None of us did.
And when did you quit working at Mike and Dad?
In January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was about when I figured I had enough money, and I figured it up pretty well for a while there. My budget showed that I was going to have $1,300 spending cash after all that. I was like, wow, what are we going to do with all that money? I think I should buy another gun, my brothers.
I don't mean to be flippant, but this loan statement showcases how ignorant Robert was when planning their crime spree. He viewed $1,300 as a large amount, enough for him and his brother to live off of during their road trip across the U.S. killing strangers. But what about food and gas, and what happens when they run out of money? Sure, they could try and steal some, but how would they continue to evade notice if they're constantly having to stop and rob stores to fund their exploits?
Don't need another gun. I was like, okay, you think you can manage with pistols? He said, I know I can. I was like, fine. If I bought an assault rifle or something, for one thing, everybody would be off about, like ban assault rifles in Oklahoma or something. So then we had this idea, we would go to another state to do the shooting.
Okay.
We do the knife spree here, go to another state, do the shooting, so Oklahoma wouldn't have any backlash on its wonderful gun laws.
Did your brother have a bunch of knives too?
Yeah, he had a little flip open serrated knife and like a 13-inch hunting knife.
Okay.
He also had like a little 6-inch dagger. Both the little one and the 13-inch, I think he also got them from Survivor.
Okay. And so you guys decided Thursday night, well, wait, what is today? Is it Thursday? Today's Thursday.
Yeah.
So you guys, so this happened last, well, I guess it was Thursday at midnight. Is that?
Yeah, we waited until after midnight. I
And
think. Was it 11?
so you guys, so you decided you were gonna kill everybody in the house. How did you plan that out? Who was doing what? Did you like plan all of it out and this is how we're gonna do it and this is?
Yes, we had every single little detail planned out.
Can you tell us about those?
Yeah. First, after midnight, after everyone was in bed except my mom and my sister, Michael was going to invite my sister back to the room. He was taking one of his old laptops apart, and he was going to show her, and I was going to sneak up behind her, put my glove over her mouth, and slit her throat. And I did it, but she just got real wide-eyed and started screaming. I was like, killing them isn't as easy as I thought. And there was blood everywhere, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so
The natural reaction to what Robert is saying is repulsion. He's talking about his attempt to kill his 12-year-old sister as if it's a comedy routine, laughing at how hard it was to slit her throat. He thinks that by laughing, he comes across as a badass, but really he comes across as a disingenuous little prick, wanting to seem intimidating. But the interviewers remain neutral. They don't allow their revulsion they feel towards Robert to show on their face, and take in the information as if it's no big deal. While this lack of reaction is fantastic in any normal police interview, it's actually even better here. As we stated, Robert's ultimate goal is to be viewed like he's the Joker. He wants to be feared. He wants people to treat him like he's some super badass super serial killer. But by not reacting in any significant way, they're not playing into his hands.
So I just went crazy stabbing her, threw her on the ground.
Well, tell me, because I want to know what you guys planned to have happen, and then we'll have you tell us what really happened.
That part went about as planned up until the fact that she didn't die right away.
Okay.
We thought it was going to be quick and quiet. We had laid out a little towel on the floor
So
to
she was
drop
supposed
her
to
on.
just.
But she made such a huge bloody mess.
So she was supposed to go quiet and quick, and then what was supposed to
We were
happen?
going to drag her body into the closet. Then we would go into the family room. I would do the same thing to my mom, and she was sitting on the couch.
Okay.
And she was going to have her back turned. Instead, she came bursting into our room after hearing all the screaming. So at that point, the little tiny pair knife had broke while I was stabbing my sister.
Is that what you used to cut her throat with? Was
Mhm.
the smaller one?
Yeah, because it was like a surgical blade.
Okay. And so you said you cut her throat, but then she started screaming, blood going everywhere, and so then you started stabbing her?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you stab her?
That's where it gets complicated because I'm still trying to remember all the details of
Mhm.
because, you know, when I saw somebody move, I just started jabbing at them.
Okay.
And I wasn't making any expert stabs. I was just trying to get them to stop moving.
Okay.
So,
So you just stabbed her a bunch of times, do you think?
yeah, but it made my arm so tired that by the time we were getting out of there, I couldn't lift this arm.
Wow. And was that before your mom had come in there?
No, I was still ready to go. I was like, you know, it's too late to stop. So when she came in there, I dropped the handle for the broken pear knife. I took my 11-inch hunting knife.
Where was that?
It was right there. I had all, before we started, I took my soft vest, my sleeves, my balaclava, my gloves, and my arm protectors. I laid them out on my bed and I put my sheets over them. And when it was time, I just slipped it all on. Except the balaclava, I decided to skip that.
So the second knife that you had, were you wearing it on your side or something?
No, I have them laying there because
Oh, I
I
see.
didn't want to have to take them out of the sheath.
Okay.
I just scooped it up and I chased my mom into the hallway. And I saw my little brother coming out of the room smiling like,
Who was that?
"What's
Which
going
one
on?"
was that?
Christopher, the little blonde one.
How old is he?
He was 10.
Christopher was not 10, he was only 7 years old. Robert doesn't actually give a shit enough about his family to know anything about them. even something as important as their age. Though one could assume that goes without saying, based on the murder alone, there are times with family homicide where the murderer will state that they did love their parent or sibling, and felt that the murder was genuinely in their best interest. But that isn't the case here. Robert would critique his parents by claiming they hated each one of their children, and only continued to have children for the tax benefits. In response, I'll leave a post April would leave on the Frugal subreddit, discussing if remaining child-free would be the best choice to living a frugal lifestyle. She wrote, quote, I have 7 children, and we have always lived on one income, and have never had any government assistance or needed it. We have a 4,700 square foot house, 2 new cars, and my kids do not do without. There are childless people that do not have this. Life is about making good job or income choices, and then making the best money choices based on your income. I would never give up having any of my children so I could have more money. They're amazing people and the world will benefit by having them in it. And nothing I could buy or invest in could compare to giving a person a chance to have a life. Unquote. April, unlike Robert, did love her family. She died fighting trying to stop him, to make sure her children were safe and given the opportunity to make the world a better place.
Okay, so he comes out kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah, he was like, what's going on? And then he sees me start stabbing Mom, and she's screaming. And he was like, and I managed to stab him in the arm, and he took off running out, and where he went.
Okay. Where did you stab your mom?
First, I stabbed her in the stomach. I did kind of a low blow swing at her, and then I started going for her throat, but I think I missed and I hit her in the jaw or something.
Oh gosh, okay. Was she trying to grab you? Was her hands out?
Yeah, she was fighting. She was really fighting.
Did her hands get
She started trying to bite my arms and
Wow.
my hand, and she tried to wrestle, and I found my hand, but I was stronger than her.
Yeah.
But, you know
What the hell was Michael doing?
Michael, since at that point nothing was going like we planned, it was amazing because he helped me out so much. He pretended to be really freaked out and scared. He was like, Robert, what are you doing? And Mom was screaming, call the police. And Michael was like, I'm calling the police, I'm calling the police. And as I was walking away from her, and Michael whispered in my ear, Michael. So,
Okay.
and the whole time nobody knew he was in on it until he took out his knife and started stabbing my little brother and sister too.
So you stabbed Mom in the hallway.
But she was still alive, and I dropped that knife next to her because I
Was the sister, is it Crystal, the first one?
Mhm.
Was she dead?
I thought she was. I really thought she was, but I lost track of her at that point.
Okay, so then let's go back to Mom. So then,
I thought that she would just lay there and bleed out, so I just tossed that knife aside. My hand was starting to get tired, and I just had to wrestle with her. I had these bite indentations in my Kevlar sleeves.
okay.
I was like, wow, I'm glad that didn't go through.
Man.
My little brother and sister barricaded themselves in the bathroom and locked the door. My other brother barricaded himself in my dad's office. And Michael came up and started hammering on the doors and he was like, let me in, he's gonna kill me. And they opened up. And so my brother took the ones in the bathroom. I came in and gave him a few stabs to make sure they were down.
In the bathroom, what did, you said Michael took the ones in the bathroom, what did he do?
He stabbed him a few times. I mean, he didn't have the arm strength I had or something because it wasn't enough. They were still laying there screaming, but he was like, and he was like holding his hand and he was like,
What did,
Which two were in there?
that's-
Victoria, second littlest girl, and Christopher, the one I had stabbed in the arm earlier.
So Victoria's how old?
She was 5.
and Christopher is
10.
At the very least, he is right about her age. The fact that he's reciting how he and his brother killed a 7- and 5-year-old as if it's funny or like it occurred in a video game is disturbing. But we have taken a good amount of care throughout the entire video to not give Robert the reaction he so desperately craves. He wants people to think he's an unfeeling madman who has to be locked away because he's ultimately too dangerous to be left alone. So he's the Joker or Bane or any other fictional villain. But that's not even remotely true. Robert is a big fucking coward because he hurt children. who are obviously the most vulnerable in our society, simply to try and make himself feel like he mattered. And that should be what people take away from this, that this noodle of a person was so deeply and utterly pathetic that he's trying to gloat about the murder of children to feel like he matters. And in fact, he doesn't.
And they're in the bathroom, and he gets them to open the door. And do you both go in, or are you just kind of still in the hallway and he goes in?
Well, I was waiting for my other brother to open up my dad's office door. I was going to take that one.
And which brother was in there? I'm sorry.
Daniel.
Okay. Too many brothers and sisters.
I think they were doing it for the tax benefits because they hated all of us. My 10-year-old brother, he didn't, turn off the upstairs. He had a similar situation I had when I was his age. That's so weird. When I was his age, I forgot to turn off the light in the game room upstairs before I came down. So my dad grabbed me by the shirt and he picked me up and he dragged me up the stairs and he threw me on the ground. And he was like, "That costs money." And with my brother Christopher, he dragged him down the stairs and started kicking him around on the floor. And
How long ago was that?
With him, earlier this year. See, I was really getting fed up with it.
Again, there's no evidence that this event with his younger brother and father even occurred. In fact, based on what Michael and Crystal would state, it seemed that Robert was the only one that was ever corporally punished. But let's say for a moment that he is correct. His father was a heinously abusive man. His mother allowed it without question. They hated their children and only wanted custody for tax reasons. Why then would Robert choose to kill his siblings, rather than provide them with a safe place to land when they eventually would leave the home? Even if he wasn't able to go to CPS to file a report on his family and attempt to gain custody of his brothers and sisters, the way others in this situation have, why wouldn't he at least use his savings to get his own apartment so he could provide them with some sort of sanctuary? He could have provided them with some sort of reprieve, giving them space to engage with the world outside of their parents' control, and offered them shelter if things got bad at home. If he couldn't afford to take care of them, which is true of most 18-year-olds, he could have at least given them some options. In this case, him just acting like an adult and taking on more responsibility and creating a secure life for himself would have bettered the entire family, especially if what he was saying was true. He could have worked hard to heal from the abuse he endured and focused on helping his brothers and sisters, but he didn't want to do that because that would require effort. Instead, he decided to kill each and every one of his siblings, because that was easier. Murder was easier than establishing a YouTube career or getting a line of credit, or just renting an apartment. So all he had to do was pick up a knife and he'd be guaranteed some form of notoriety.
Didn't you ever call the police or something?
About 3 years ago, my mom slapped me so hard I left cuts down both my cheeks, and I took pictures on my phone. And I had the lady from Youth Services in my contacts because I knew everybody down at the Justice Center. I volunteered there and I was like, okay, I gotta end this. But I didn't send it because I was like, no, someday I'm gonna take care of this myself. And I was like, it just didn't feel like that would do enough justice. And, I was really sure that they wouldn't get in enough trouble for the way they treated us. So I went vigilante. I never sent pictures. Scars went away.
Okay.
Mom thought I was hilarious, called me the Joker for a while.
So there's no way this happened. In the years that have elapsed since the massacre, no photo evidence has been put forward showcasing the abuse Robert suffered. If he had evidence, he would have kept it in his lockbox to be shown to the public, because he always intended for his statements and writings to be released. Reminder, he meticulously planned his crimes and what he would reveal to the public. He was always going to claim his parents were awful people who deserved what happened to them. With that in mind, there is no way he would have not kept a photo showcasing the abuse, especially if it was as graphic as he's alleging. Even if he didn't send it to CPS, he would have kept it for the YouTube video going over his crimes, or his eventual court case. His claim also doesn't make any sense. If you've ever been slapped, you know it doesn't usually result in a wound down your cheeks. Even if someone has a sharp manicure, it's much more likely that the nails would break before they broke the skin, due to the force of the slap. Moreover, the claim was that it was Robert who was the disciplinarian in the family. Similarly, it's a well-established fact that, while scars fade, they don't disappear. There's an entire corner of the cosmetic industry that makes money off of scar-fading and lightening products. But even if a scar fades, it will still be somewhat visible. If he did have scars from the slap that made him look like the Joker, he'd be pointing them out to the officer and the camera, but he doesn't, because this didn't happen. This kid desperately wants to come across as some cool and edgy guy when he talks about what he did. He thinks he sounds like Jared Leto's Joker when he talks about taking justice into his own hands in order to get revenge on his parents' abuse.
Sounds like that was pretty traumatic for you.
Well, I took care of it. I don't feel bad anymore.
It's unlikely that this is the case. He's just very dedicated to appearing apathetic and nonchalant about what he's done.
Well, so you said you were waiting to go into the office. Did you see Michael? You said he stabbed your brother and sister that were in the bathroom?
I just saw when the door opened, he kicked it open, did a macho cowboy kick, leaned back and kicked the door open. I think knocked my sister down, and he just went in there with his knife raised. Yeah, I could hear it.
Okay.
I hate the sound of a knife hitting bone. It's
yeah. So, and then what did you do? You went into the office or something?
No, because he refused to open up. I think he could see my blood-stained socks underneath the door. So I did a little tactical thing. I leaned up against the wall next to the door, and my brother came out, and he started hammering on the door, and he was like, he did the same thing. He was like, let me in, he's gonna kill me. And while he was doing that, I went into the bathroom, stabbed them, made sure they were dead, walked back out.
Where did you stab them in the bathroom? That was Christopher and Victoria?
Yeah, but they were so little, I think I just stabbed them in the chest and my knife went right through them.
Okay. But they were still alive when you went in there, though?
Yeah, they were screaming.
But they had both been stabbed by Michael?
Yeah, they were laying there in their blood.
Okay, and screaming and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you stabbed them, and then did they die? Or they quit screaming?
No, they kept screaming. I don't know when they stopped screaming. There was a lot of screaming going on.
Okay.
But anyway, finally, my brother in Dad's office opened the door just a hair, and my brother put his hand in there and pried the door open. He was like, all yours? So, okay. I walked in there and I bent him over. I bent Daniel over, and he was like, what are you doing? I'm with you. I was like, I'm not going to give you a knife. So I just I think I stabbed him in the stomach or something several times and threw him down. And I thought he was dead, but then the alarm went off because my parents had already set the alarm for the evening.
The siren was going off?
Yeah, siren was going off, but only for a split second, and my brother ran to the console and disabled it. He told me, Crystal's going outside.
And she's the first one?
Yeah.
From the bedroom?
I was like, are you kidding me? My mom had drug herself all the way to a couch. She was laying there still saying, why isn't anyone calling 911?
Did someone get a phone at some point?
Yeah. At some point, after I came back inside, my brother said, well, one of them called the police.
Okay, well then go. So, Michael tells you that Crystal's gone outside, so then what did you do?
I followed her outside, and I found her laying there in the grass.
In the front yard?
Mm-hmm. And she was just laying there, and when I came close to me, she started saying, my brother did this to me. I was like, shh, shh. And I scooped her up, and then she looked and saw it was me, and she started thrashing and kicking. And I tried to carry her back inside, but she kicked herself out of my arms, collapsed back in the grass. I was like, I hate to do this in front of the neighbors, but I started strangling her.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like forever I was just laying over her, just looking at her, and she
just had blood all over you at this point?
I was soaked in blood.
Your hands and...
So was she, and I was just like, neighbors are gonna see this. But I just laid on top of her throat for a while until she made a gurgling noise, and I thought, that's gotta be it. So I was so tired I could barely stand up. I pulled myself up and I staggered back inside and I just left her there. I can't move from inside. I came back inside and it was just, I was still holding my 15-inch hunting knife. I had switched to that one because it's a straight blade. Stab through them a lot easier than the other one because it was kind of curved. It's like for skinning or something. It didn't stab as well as this one. So I was holding that one, and while my brother was telling me something about, well, one of them called the police, because now they're coming. He said it was on his phone. Somebody had called 911, so he said he just destroyed the phone. And he said, we gotta forget the ammo, we gotta forget the guns, we gotta get out of here. And then I heard this voice go, Robert. And it was my dad coming down the stairs. After all this, he's finally woken up.
So Robert is a deeply theatrical person. It's not enough for him to talk about what happened. He has to do impressions of each family member, add in jokes in small bits, and generally move through the story as if he was on a stage. He's not talking like he's having a conversation, he's performing. But I suppose this is what he believes a psychopath confessing to a murder looks like. But it comes across as deeply inauthentic. Again, this kind of behavior is seen more in middle school and early high school, where a teenager is still in the midst of figuring out who they are. They will adopt traits from media they like, even those that don't work in the real world. This is something that most outgrow in time, and it's odd to see such behavior in an interrogation room. Based on his earlier statements, his dad was and should be the main focus of his rage. This was his abuser, the person who hurt him so badly that he became suicidal before ultimately becoming homicidal. But instead of focusing his energy on killing him early on, he left him for last. This was apparently always part of the plan, even though it objectively makes no sense. Robert is supposed to be a super genius serial killer, the brains behind the most savage mass murders in America, who would kill hundreds of people without being caught. And yet he decided not only to use a weapon that would leave him physically exhausted after one kill, but to leave the biggest threat to his plan alive until he killed everyone else. Based on age, weight, and general health, David and April were the only threats to the brothers. As they stated, everyone else was under the age of 13, and therefore would be easier to kill. With that in mind, this super genius should have figured that they should be taken out first when they were sleeping. But he didn't. Instead, it was his father that engaged him when he was already exhausted. We're not trying to give Robert or any potential murderers pointers, but we want to emphasize at every possible opportunity how Robert's ego does not align with reality. He wants you to believe that he is the supervillain who is so dangerous he should be tied to a stretcher and wheeled into every room, that his mind is so dark and twisted that no other person could possibly understand him. But he's like every other mass murderer, just stupid and incapable.
He was asleep upstairs, and he started coming down, and I was like, c'est la vie. I walked back into my room and waited for him to come around the corner, and he came in there and he was like, what are you doing? He was all flexing and everything. So I just jumped on him and started stabbing him, and he was like, why are you doing this? And he said something along the lines of, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you first. And I think I got him in the lung or something, because I only had to stab him a few times and then he gurgled, and that was that. So I just, and that was all of them. So I tossed my knife down. Michael was back there. He was like, get your armor, let's go.
Where was Crystal still outside?
Yeah, she was still outside, and I was stripping off my bloody socks. And I reached up into my drawer and took out some new ones, put it on, slipped on my boots, and I said, Michael, I can't really get up. And he said, did you get hurt? And I said, I'm just so tired. And I said, Crystal's on the front lawn, could you drag her inside? And he said, I'm on it. And apparently he drove her into the front entryway. While I was, I picked up all 4 steel plates, a helmet, his plate carrier. I was already wearing my plate carrier. And I walked into the living room next to the entryway, and I was like, oh, where are the keys? And he said, they're in Mom's purse. I said, where's Mom's purse? He said, she had it hidden somewhere. It's like, we don't have time for this. And we really didn't, because like a few seconds later, somebody was banging on the front door and they were yelling, open up. And then Crystal started crying and saying, I can't. I was like, she's still alive. And at that point, I couldn't kill her because if she could survive all that, I was like, okay, you deserve to live. Good for you.
Robert is attempting to reframe his sister's survival so he doesn't look like he failed to kill her, because it's incongruent with how he wants the public to view him. It's not that she fought valiantly for her life, or that she'd been able to play dead whenever he tried to strangle her. Instead, he decided to, quote, let her live, even though, by his own estimation, the cops were already at the front door, and he was too tired while she was still alive and calling for help.
So I just walked back the other way, and Michael was like, we're gonna have to ditch the vehicle, you know, they're gonna be all over the place out front. So I was like, then follow me. And I started putting the plates in my plate carrier. No, he started putting the plates in his plate carrier, but I was still carrying my two. And we went out the back door. And I had him hold my plates while I jumped to the fence. Then he handed me the plates, he jumped the fence. We started walking down to the park. I dropped one of the steel plates, but I was too tired to pick it up. I was staggering and I couldn't lift this arm. I was carrying everything under this arm. I had my helmet under this arm at some point, but then I put it on. And we went all the way into the forest, and I slid off the gravel path at one point into some thorns and got all cut up, and Michael was like, follow my voice and crawl back up here. And I used my plate to heave myself up. I was like, claw myself up. And I finally got back up on the path, and I was just laying there for a moment. And I was like, okay, well, we did the main part. Shooting wasn't really important, and Michael's like, it was out of our control. And I was like, that was a lot harder than I thought. They did not die easy. And Michael said, well, at least they're gone. The world's a better place. And I was like, yeah. And it gave me the strength to get up and put my plate in my plate carrier. We kept going down the path, and Michael was like, wait, I don't need my back plate. He took it out and he like flung it to the side, and he was like, now they'll go that way, see? And I was like, okay, I still need to rest. So we cut off into the woods, down just a narrow dirt path. And then after we felt like we had gone far enough down there, we stopped on a riverbank and laid down, and I stripped my steel plate carrier off, because it was getting too heavy on my chest and I couldn't breathe. I was wearing the soft vest under my shirt, and then I was wearing the plate carrier, and it's fine for walking, but laying down those plates, you know, I'm just too small of a person to hold that kind of weight. So I stripped it off and left the plate carrier, and Michael was like, you gonna leave your plate carrier? And I was like, no, I might carry it. So I just need to rest for a moment. So I took my helmet off and I laid it down, and I used it as a pillow. I don't know how long I laid there. Michael started throwing up, and I was like, yeah, just give it a moment, you'll be fine. I patted him on the back and I said, it was a pleasure doing this with you. You're the only one who understands. And then we saw flashlights, and so I said, lay down and be very still. So we did, and that's when we got caught.
Okay. When did you know that the cops were there? When did you first know the police were there?
I heard sirens sometime while we were down crossing the park to go into the forest, and Michael was like, you think that's them? You know it's them. What else could it be?
A dog came up on you? Police dog?
Yep, dog came up on us, and I heard a bunch of shouting. I couldn't tell what they were saying at first. Finally they said, get on your stomach and show us your hands. And we both complied and said, yes sir. Show them your hands, and then one of them like yelled knife boot or something, and the dog started attacking my brother. I was like, what are you doing? And I heard one of them yell, there, you see that knife there laying in the dirt next to him? I was like, Michael, you brought your knife? Well, I guess he wanted to keep going. He's stronger than me. got a lot more will to him.
So, so then you got caught. Let's go back real quick. How was it supposed to go down? What was the plan?
The plan was so stupid, but this was my first homicide. And what was really supposed to happen was I would stealthily slit my sister's throat, lay her down, just let her bleed out silently with no way of screaming because her throat was cut, I thought. And I thought we would just lay her down, slide her into the closet. I would go in, put my glove over my mom's mouth, slit her throat, just leave her there. Michael was going to go in with his knife, and he said hopefully Victoria, the 5-year-old, would still be in bed, and he said he would just strangle her or something. He said she would be real easy, and then we'd go upstairs. Little boys probably might wake up because this was happening on the other side of the house. Figured we would put on our balaclavas and dressed in all black. We would sneak upstairs, and while our father was sleeping, we would kill him.
When discussing his plans for the murders, Robert's hands started twitching and he began scratching his lip. Though he had touched his face and mouth when he talked about the actual murders, his hands were not shaking. Something about talking about the plan, not the actual execution, excites him. He also nonsensically clarifies to the officer that this was his first homicide, as if the officer or the general public were to assume otherwise.
And I had string tied around my ankles and my jeans at one point so they wouldn't rustle. It was...
Yeah.
I was like, please, why are we ninjas? Apparently not.
Just to be quieter.
Yeah.
Well, and then if that had all gone perfect, killing all of them in the house, because there's the baby, right? The toddler?
Yeah.
Was there plans what about killing her?
I figured I would just chop her head off with my axe.
Okay.
So.
And that would have been everybody in the house then?
Well, no, we'd have to go downstairs and kill the boys, but.
Oh, the boys, okay.
They didn't have cell phones, they wouldn't know what was going on.
And then what would you have done if everything went that way?
What was supposed to happen, because I had no idea it would be such a big bloody mess, we were going to line them all up on a tarp, clean up the blood. I was going to make a video interview with me and Michael in front of the bodies, talking about why we did this, what our future plans were, a little bit of background about it. I was going to put the video on the flash drive and destroy my phone. We were going to destroy all the electronics in the house. I hate electronics.
So this is a ridiculous statement, because it's obviously not true. Robert did not hate electronics, as he had tried to start an entire online electronic-based career. He loved electronics. He used them every day, and he had discussed building his own super gaming computer. He knows that they could be tracked using their electronic devices, so they would obviously have to ditch them at some point, but he acts like destroying them would be a moral stance against using them, when it's not. This small aside is confounding.
I was going to take the family vehicle up to Walmart. I was going to buy 8 tubs and 4 lids, double stack the tubs into 4 sets, chop up the bodies, put them in the tubs, and then put them in the attic. And then when morning came, the ammunition arrived, put them in the vehicle, drive up, pick up the guns, and then leave the state.
Mm-hmm. And what were you going to do once you got out of state? Did you have a destination?
We had no destination, but I bought a road atlas so we could look around. Kind of wanted to see America before we did this and go on a road trip.
Okay. And what were you going to do with all the guns and ammunition?
We were going to the Glock 41s are supposed to come with 1 spare magazine, 1 loaded, 1 spare magazine each. Load them up, keep 1 extra magazine with us, walk away from the vehicle from a secluded place, walk into a populated area and kill no more than 10 people, then walk away, start stripping off our armor, put them in duffel bags, put the guns in our backpacks. We were also going to make Molotov cocktails so no one would follow us. We'd just light the place on fire or something. Walk back to the vehicle, drive away, and see if we could do that. Hit a bunch of places, and 10 bodies would add up after a while, and maybe people would start to get some sort of idea this is the new thing.
Why would you want to kill so many people?
I've always been fascinated with the idea of killing people. Not that I have anything against people in general, but I figure if you kill so many people, you're going to kill some bad-minded people, some people that aren't contributing anything to society. And there's so many billions of people in the world, and each one of them think they're special, but they're not. And who's really going to miss? Even if we killed 100 people, who's really going to miss? I mean, that's only going to affect so many other people.
So this is some bullshit. It's truly remarkable how stupid this lone statement is, because he believes that he is a visionary, able to see past pointless morality that's keeping humans stuck in their ways, even though everything he is saying is ridiculous. That this statement alone is just so brave, and that anyone who says it's not just doesn't understand the intricacies of the world. That we, the people who rightfully look at this statement and say, wow, what a moron, are the actual morons. We're just the sheeple who just don't get it. He wants to cull the herd, so to speak, to take out some wrong-minded bad people who aren't contributing to society while believing wrongfully that they themselves are special. But if he really felt that that was a problem, he would have started with himself. Objectively, Robert has never done anything for anyone outside of himself. He never contributed positively to society, and moments before was unable to remember the age of the brother he killed. He is the bad person he's talking about, because the only impact he will ever have on the world is hurting the most valuable people in our society, and acting as if that makes him interesting.
But it wasn't an angry thing. It was more like going to be a hobby. We figured it up, and if we had managed to kill some people at another location, we would have fit like 5 different categories of murderers. Would have been like murder superstars or something.
Which categories were you gonna fit?
Family side, pseudo commando, spray killer, and
They were never going to be murder superstars because there's no such thing. There are true crime cases that are extremely popular, but that has more to do with the public's reaction to the crimes than the person behind them. Again, Robert is desperate to affirm that he is a special boy, that he isn't like other serial killers, even though he absolutely is. It seems like he wants to be the prettiest, most special girl at the ball, so he chooses the quickest and most despicable way to gain any sort of attention. And even then, he failed. He's a failure in every single respect.
I can't remember all of them, but those were the main ones. There's ones that I fancied. Oh, mass murder. Can't remember the last one.
So you were gonna make this video?
Yeah.
And what was this video? What were you gonna say?
I was going to start out with my brother holding the weapons in the background, and I was saying, I'm just here in my house with my bloody weapons, but you know what I like a lot more than bloody weapons? These 4 tubs that I've got here to store my dead family members. And I'd give a thumbs up, and we'd sit down, and I'd turn to my brother and be like, so Michael, why did we do this? He would talk about why he thought we did it. We'd compare thoughts, and I didn't really have it planned. I just knew it was going to be good. Because whenever me and my brother sat down, we could brainstorm.
Okay.
Did you think like, so this video would become like kind of a pop culture thing and people would want to see it?
Yeah, we were planning on making 2 versions actually. One that just showed the tubs. It could be put on YouTube or something. The other one would show the bodies.
Okay.
So like a G-rated and a...
Yeah, because I still wanted people to see it.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
when you guys would brainstorm and talk about the murders and going from state to state, did you talk about like being able to see yourself on the news and social media and stuff like that?
That's why we didn't kill ourselves.
Oh.
We want to see the aftermath.
Oh, okay.
We want to see if it wakes anybody up.
What do you want it to wake them up and then realize?
Murder isn't really so bad. I mean, sure it's illegal, but what's wrong about it, you know?
Wow, what a brilliant statement. This is honestly frustrating to listen to, because he thinks he's presenting something as if it's life-changing. So far, has he actually put forth any argument as to why murder isn't so bad? Has he made a compelling case as to why his parents and siblings deserve to be savagely murdered, besides his parents might have been abusive? Has he talked about ethics of murder at all? No, he hasn't, because that was never the point.
You see, I'm not saying I'm pegging for the death sentence here, but if you kill one person, you've paid society back. If you kill more than one person, what are they going to do? Kill you multiple times? It's kind of like becoming a god.
So how is it like that? That makes no sense. That isn't an argument, and it follows no line of logic. Killing multiple people doesn't make you a god, simply because you can't get killed 5 times by the state if you're caught. One thing has nothing to do with the other, unless you are strictly talking about taking another person's life is a godlike act, since death is viewed by some as a predetermined act orchestrated by their god. But that is us ultimately giving him some credit for an argument he isn't putting forward. That's us bending over backwards to try and make sense of his ramblings, even though he's clearly just a loser trying to stick a vague philosophical reasoning onto his crimes. It's frustrating to listen to someone speak like they're making some radical philosophical strides in presenting this new way of thinking, when all they said amounts to, is murder really that bad though? Like, come on.
So do you think they all deserve to die?
My family, yes. They were very bad people. They were the bane of society. They made a system.
Even the 4-year-old?
Yeah, she was starting to show those traits. She didn't like me. She told me she hated me once. And my parents were like, I don't know, they almost seemed to support her. They were like, hey, you stay away from your brother.
And he's back to doing the primp of contempt, focusing on his hands as if he's a Batman villain, while discussing how a 4-year-old child deserved to die because they didn't like them. And there lies the real reason he wanted to kill his entire family. It wasn't because they were morally bad people who contributed nothing to society, who were destined to amount to nothing. All his incoherent sophistry and philosophical reasonings were false, obviously. He decided to kill each member of his family, including his 2-year-old baby sister, because Robert felt like they didn't like him, that he was the black sheep and they all secretly despised him. Great. But that wasn't true. Robert was misinterpreting his family's feelings, the way most teenagers do, because they're a Molotov cocktail of hormones and emotions. And because of this, most teenagers feel radically important in other people's lives. Everything feels like the end of the world, where even a small breakup is tantamount to some event horizon that's going to destroy everything, even though it's just Tuesday. Robert wanted attention, to be liked and admired, and the fact that his family didn't give him that feeling meant that they deserved to perish. The only family member he chose not to kill was the brother who actively adored him, who did everything he did because he loved him that much. But every other member of his family loved him too. April wrote about how amazing she thought her children were all over her Reddit posts. She bragged about how smart she thought her son was, how he would eventually do amazing things for the world, and raising him had been a gift. However, because he felt like she didn't love him, she simply deserved to die.
It wasn't until about when, sometime while I was sleeping in the holding cell that I started remembering what actually happened. I'm still thinking about it.
So if he killed those two, then that means you killed Mom and Dad and Daniel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do you know that you killed those 3 people?
I saw their bodies. I saw them not moving. 2 of them gurgled. With Daniel, I think I got him through the lungs at one point, and Michael was like, whoa, I didn't even know you could do that, because once I got him through the lungs, he just collapsed. He was dead right there.
Okay. When you stabbed your mom, you said you kind of stabbed her in the stomach. Well, let me just ask it this way, I guess. When you were stabbing people, your intent was to kill them?
Hmm?
Okay. What about Michael? When he was stabbing people, was that his intent? Was to kill people?
Well, that was the plan. He was supposed to kill so many of them. I was supposed to kill so many of them. When we were doing the shootings, he would take 5, I would take 5. Nothing went to plan.
But you guys had talked about that, and he had said, yeah, I'm gonna kill so-and-so, and I'm gonna kill this many people at this point.
Mhm.
Is that kind of how that happened?
Yeah.
Did you get any cuts on your hand from stabbing, when you were stabbing people?
No, I walked out of the house without a cut on me. I got all of these scrapes and cuts and stuff from when I collapsed while we were running.
Man.
I had stripped I had stripped the sleeves and gloves off, and that left my arms exposed.
Was there ever a time when you guys were planning this, or while it was going on, that Michael tried to stop you and said, this is dumb, or it's wrong, or anything like that?
No, he was my strength. He always told me this is what we were meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
At one point I did tell him, you know what, let me wait until I said, maybe someday I'll get out of here, and maybe I'll get some military experience or something so we can do this better. And he was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I was just like, you're right, I can't leave you here, and I don't know when I'll get out of here. So.
This is an interesting addition over an hour into the interview. He is now trying to put forward the notion that he didn't leave the home or try to escape his parents' control prior to the murders because he felt like he couldn't leave Michael in that environment, that he was being a protective and loving brother by staying and ensuring that he wasn't harmed. Again, he would go on to kill or attempt to kill every other sibling, but he felt responsible for protecting this one, given that Michael actively adored him. In cases of extreme paternal abuse and neglect, studies show that when another sibling leaves, it actually is extremely difficult. They tend to feel a sense of survivor's guilt for getting out of the situation, and they often work to try and get their relatives out of that poor environment. Obviously, that is not on display here. Robert didn't care for any of his other siblings, only Michael, because Michael gave him the validation he so desperately craved. This was the only person who treated him as if he was the smartest man in the world, and he didn't want to give that up. He didn't stay to protect Michael, because according to his own testimony, his father hadn't been as aggressive with him growing up, so he wasn't in danger.
Was there ever another time where you wanted to back out?
No, I always knew we were going to do this.
Did you ever talk to anybody else about this besides Michael?
No, I mean, in general, I talked to some people about murder. There was this girl at work. I thought she was like me until I found out that she just liked to take stuff from people. She liked to get pregnant all the time, and she liked to take people's money. I gave her $40 myself, which I very much regret, but she liked talking about murder with me. I liked talking about murder. She would get threats at school sometimes, and she was crying, and I told her, why don't you let me kill them? And she was like, I'll take care of it myself. I said, are you going to kill them? She said, probably not. I was like, that's so weak. And that was one of the last times we talked.
There are just so many parts of this interrogation that fill me with secondhand embarrassment. This guy genuinely believes that everything he says is so cool and interesting that people are going to watch this footage and cower at his intellect. But it's embarrassing. His final whispered statement of her being so weak feels like someone who wants to be taken seriously but doesn't know how. Like he watched an anime where the villain gets upset at something similar and thought since the character looked cool while saying it, well, I can just do it too and I'll be cool too. But obviously that didn't work, because of course it wouldn't. He just described the girl who worked at the call center with him as someone who, quote, just likes to get pregnant and take stuff from people, unquote. He's trying to degrade her, to say that she has poor moral character, all the while sitting in an interrogation room for the massacre he just did on his family. But more than that, that is such an obviously false depiction of this person. Robert doesn't like this girl probably because she rejected him at some point. He takes specific issue with her being pregnant from someone else, which is why that fact is brought up in the first place, and he regrets giving her money. which he admits he willingly did. He, for some reason, thought that because she talked to him about true crime, a relatively normal interest, that she was just like him, fueled by delusions of grandeur and the desire to be the world's most notorious mass murderer. But she just liked true crime the way most people do. She didn't want to be a murderer, and she probably thought it was creepy that he wanted to kill people who were making fun of her, and she probably thought being around him was a bit uncomfortable. But he doesn't see it like that. But because she was kind to him at all, he probably had plans to include her in their killing spree as an accomplice. He wanted them to travel the world together as a murderous duo, and the fact that she got pregnant by someone else, probably a boyfriend that he didn't like, she was able to escape his delusions.
What's her name? Is she from here in VA or somewhere else?
Yeah. She lives in the neighborhood I used to live in, actually, a few houses down.
Where did you used to live?
Huh?
And where was that?
The Indian Springs.
Where this thing happened?
Oh, where this happened?
No, the other Indian Springs, one with like the red brick entrance.
Oh, okay.
You know, while I'm going down Elm.
So, do y'all have any other family here?
I have an uncle somewhere out there. Two uncles actually. One of them ex-Navy. An aunt. I don't know if she's still in Kansas. A grandmother in Missouri and a grandmother in Florida. Another aunt, I think, is in Florida.
Okay. The uncles, are they here? Like in Oklahoma?
One of my uncles, I think, is.
Okay, what's his name? Okay.
Yeah.
Was there anybody
Do you
else?
know-
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you know where he works or anything about him?
All I ever knew is that he liked guns too, and I didn't really get to talk to him about it, but I always admired him for that.
Okay. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Was there anybody who to about killing people?
Only in kind of a casual, joking way. Oh, I hate people, I wish everyone would die sort of way online. But I don't really like talking to people online because they like to pretend to be people that they weren't. It's like, oh, I bet you're just some fat slob on the other side of that screen who's never going to kill anyone.
Do you have a computer of your own?
I have two laptops.
But hey, he hates electronics.
Where are they?
One is next to my PS4. The other one is on the shelf in my closet.
Okay. Do you use one or both? Or is like one an old one or new one or something?
One of them is an old one that I stopped using when I got the new one. But I accidentally dropped the new one time and crashed the hard drive. So I had to go back to using the old one for a while, but then I bought a new hard drive for it.
For your new one?
For the new one, yeah.
Okay. Do you have, is it password protected, your laptops?
Oh, yeah.
Would you tell us the password for those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You got it.
Maybe.
My phone is like phone print box.
Oh, is it like an iPhone or something?
It's a Galaxy S6.
And it reads your fingerprint?
It reads my fingerprint.
Oh, okay. But could you put in a code if you can't get it to do the fingerprint?
Yeah, it's the same password actually.
Oh, okay.
What's your password?
Capital SYSTECHREBEL 0.
Capital SYSTECHRE.
BEL
Okay.
0.
0.
That's a long password.
All my other passwords are randomly generated hexadecimal byte. They're just a bunch of letters and numbers that I can't memorize. I've got a notepad with it all on there though.
Oh.
And that's the same one for your phone also?
Yeah, for both laptops and the phone.
Do you know if Michael ever talked to anybody else about this?
I don't think so. He never had a job, so he talked to fewer people than me, unless he talked to anyone online, but I don't know anything about that.
Either one of y'all in any groups online, or?
No. Just like to follow what's going on with the Marines and Deputy Med and others who served in Terminal Lance and Citizens Against Cop Block. I just follow those pages though. I'm not like an active member.
So, I guess if you could get your message out there still, what would your message be?
If you know someone who isn't contributing to society, kill them. There's too many people in the world as it is. Every day there's more people in the world than there has ever been before, and they don't matter. If they're not doing good, kill them. Look at the position we were in. It was practically prison circumstances, and we were still able to do this, and we had so much more planned. Anyone can do it. Yeah.
This is really one of the most embarrassing things we've ever witnessed. So this guy believes that he is inspiring the masses, that people are going to watch this interrogation and think, wow, he's really onto something. That people of all ages will then go out and begin slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people who they feel aren't doing enough to make the world better. But what are the actual parameters we're working with here? Are we talking about people who are not able to work full-time or work labor-intensive jobs? Do we include them since he killed his father who was able to provide for them? And if we are including people who can work, what is the cutoff? Are you allowed to kill your local Burger King worker, but not someone working in a hospital? And what ages are we allowed to kill? Based solely on what he has done, killing children apparently is acceptable. But isn't that unfair since they aren't in a position to contribute to society yet? And what does contributing to society even mean in this instance? He's acting like he's raising an army of people who will just agree with him randomly, people who will idolize him and follow him like he's a god. But he's just some dweeb trying to look cool without saying anything of substance. He has rehearsed things he wants to say, but when you actually engage with what he's claiming, it's just nothing. Again, if he genuinely believed in what he is claiming his mission statement here was, he would have ended his own life. He never contributed to society at all. He never gave anything back to help others. The moment he became an adult, he killed his whole family, and he didn't even get away with that. He was taken care of by his parents, and now is taken care of by the state and the taxpayer. If there's anyone who doesn't contribute to society in this story, it was him. I do want to applaud the interrogators for not laughing in his face or giving him any sort of reaction, because he desperately was seeking any sort of reaction.
So what do you want to do now?
I don't know. This is all I ever thought about. I mean, if I could just like go to prison, do community service, maybe get back to writing, die someday, and hope somebody remembers.
Oddly enough, Robert would go back to writing, as he released a book in 2020 titled Estranged Lifeline. The following is the synopsis as found on Amazon. Quote, "The planet Circrux was once a world of magic, but in its technological age it is plagued by terrorism. The cult known as the Phobia is recruiting outcasts and murderers all across the world. Only the hardened ultra-military nations, such as the rogue throne of Noisia, keep control. But beyond those borders, a civilian must learn to fight back." Unquote. This sounds fucking amazing. So it doesn't seem as if the book sold well, with there being 2 5-star ratings and no relevant reviews anywhere online. It seemed that the psycho killer wasn't able to get any of the notoriety he so desperately craved.
What do you think that Michael should do now?
He said he doesn't care. He said he didn't care if they shot him on sight. I mean, the dog got him, but they didn't shoot him, so. He never said what he wanted to happen, though. He said he didn't care, so that's up to him.
What do you think should happen to him?
I think he is stronger than me in will. He stayed much calmer than me, and he kept me going when I was feeling weak, and I think that he should be, if there was any way to rehabilitate him, he really deserves to be somebody's mentor in the world so he can make more good people, more useful people in the world.
But again, what does a useful person look like? Is it just a person who likes Robert? Because that's the only qualifier he has given thus far. As long as you like Robert and think he's a cool guy, you can live. But everyone else, you die.
Sure.
Okay, give me just a minute.
Sure.
Is there anything else that that you're leaving out, forgot about, or that you want us to know?
No, I think that's it. I have a full list of body armor and weapons on the flash drive on my keychain, along with some background art I made.
Okay.
It's got like
Where's your keychain?
it's hanging on a nail next to the clock on the right side, right lower side of my shelf in my room.
And then you've got the notepad that's under your bed in a lockbox.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got kind of some writings about this.
I called it literary documentation. It's written kind of like a story/diary, but it's just, I was documenting what happened, and I made a list of the prices for all the body armor that we bought, and I made some diagrams for some bombs I thought up.
How old are some of the how far back does that go?
It only goes back about 11 days. I started documenting it. I started documenting it midway through our planning because I was like, you know, if we die, no one's gonna know what happened. Nobody's gonna know why this happened. They're not gonna know half of it. So.
Okay. Would you be willing to write us a statement now with your story? Basically what you just told us, kind of starting at the planning stages, and this is the plans me and Michael made, and then this is what actually happened?
Well, that would be a long statement. Yeah, I could get started.
Okay.
So this is where the interview ends. However, as we were putting together this video, Robert would do his first interview since he's been in prison, and it would appear that nothing has changed. The released portion of the interview is less than 10 minutes long, and even more embarrassing than what we just watched, somehow. And since we're already here, we will be reviewing that as well. As always, we'll leave a link to the original clip in the description box down below, should you state right off the bat that I think that giving Robert's words any of this weight through editing is a mistake. It makes him feel important, and he simply isn't. The actions he took were disgusting, but he isn't some massively important figure who people should be scared of. And of course, that's what he wants from this. By giving him this kind of supervillain editing, it centers him and not the victims. It makes him the Grand Master of evil, when he's just some guy who was so deeply insecure that he killed his entire family tattoos. That makes perfect sense, based on everything else. The only one that is unfortunately legible is the one that says no gods in cursive, which fits with his edgy boy internet persona fairly well. Again, fearing this guy and reacting with anything besides embarrassment is entirely inappropriate. This is someone who desperately wants to be taken seriously, to be viewed as a brilliant mind, but he isn't. So that's exactly what we're talking about. This guy wants you to think that he is the Joker, that if he wanted to, he could break out of here with a spoon whenever he desired, because he's just that smart. That he's such a threat to society, and it's safer that he's locked away because he's just so deranged. Whoa! Where's Robert going? Oh, he's right over there. Oh my god, whoa. Okay, so unfortunately he's deranged, but not that deranged. He killed his entire family because he didn't feel like they appreciated him for some reason. He's like every other idiotic murderer that we've ever covered, because nothing he's done is really that different or special. He's just like every other killer in every aspect, but he desperately wants to feel as if he's a psychopath. If he had been a psychopath, that would have been revealed in court by his own lawyers, but that didn't happen because he isn't. Moreover, he once again shows how lost in his own delusions of grandeur he is. Despite the fact that most people have no idea who he is despite his crimes, he believes that if he were let out of prison, he would be a multimillionaire living a life that others could only dream about. And then, everyone else would be envious of just how successful he is. So, yeah. But what evidence does he have that that is the case? He has no real work ethic, no brilliant ideas that could be turned into a business, and he's never achieved anything of value. It's not as if he's bettered himself with his time away, seeing as he gained a significant amount of visceral fat alongside his tattoos, and it's clear that he spent the majority of his time writing books that no one's ever going to read. I mean, maybe I will, but what's the evidence that he's ever going to do anything of value to the press for attention, not so that people can remember what happened to his family and the actual victims? That much is blatantly obvious, given the fact that he has spent the first portion of this interview claiming that he's a psychopath who would just be too cool and powerful if he was allowed outside of the prison. But anyhow, it's important to note that the family is remembered. Broken Arrow's city council raised funds to buy the home, which had sat vacant for years after the murders. They bought the home from the mortgage holder, tore it down, and created the Beaver Family First Responders Memorial Park, which is a small but beautiful park. So Robert is still upset. He thought that he would be a murderer superstar, as he so embarrassingly stated in his police interrogation. He thought that he would be cool Hannibal Lecter. Oh, they'd wheel him out on the gurney, he'd have a cigar, Ray-Bans on, little sunglasses. He thought that people around the world would rally to his cause and support him. But since entering prison, the world has moved on. Every day, people become more aware of other mass casualty events, to the point to where the public doesn't have the emotional capacity to give Robert the validation he so desperately craves. And that bothers him. He thought that he would be worshipped and reviled, but the public generally doesn't give a shit. So that is obviously bullshit. He was never going to spare Daniel's life, because Daniel was never a part of their plans. He was going to kill him too and the 2-year-old, as well as everyone else, because he wanted to get the maximum amount of attention for his crimes. But because the public has heard the 911 call and empathized with his little brother, Robert is trying to reframe the situation to his benefit. Also, he just finished calling himself a psychopath, which means that he is expecting the public to believe that he is genuinely feeling some kind of remorse here. But this is the one whose throat he slit, and then stabbed upwards of 20 times, then chased onto the lawn and strangled, but failed to actually kill that sister and also the baby sister who he was going to decapitate for his fucking YouTube video. He doesn't want to hurt them by restating that his parents had traumatized him by sheltering him too much, even though he's already stated that publicly to the court and to the police. But he is just a considerate guy now. The rest of the clips don't include any more of the interview with Robert, so we'll end our coverage here. If there's anything you should take away from this video, it's that Robert Beaver is a coward and a little loser. He's not a psychopath or a sociopath or however he'll try to describe himself tomorrow. He was a teenager who felt slighted by his parents, who felt like he deserved more than he had, and someone who refused to work hard to make something of himself. So if you've made it to this portion of the video, thank you for watching. If there's a case you want to see on the channel or a story you want to bring more attention to, you can let me know by emailing me at dreading.official@gmail.com. We're still consistently going through your suggestions in the inbox, adding your suggestions to the list. But be aware, we are 2 people, so it will take us some time, but again, we are trying our best. So with all of that said, thank you for watching, and remember, stay safe.